Hello and welcome to my shop. I wanted to do a tour video for a couple reasons. First, I wanted to show you just how disorganized I am sometimes. I wanted to show you how I have my tools laid out. One, to hopefully inspire someone else with maybe a half decent idea I have, and also to get some feedback from you to see how I could do things better and more efficiently. I'm always open to suggestions, and honestly, stuff around here gets moved around all the time to make for a better workflow. So if you have any suggestions for me, please leave them below. Subscribe if you're not already, because I have a lot more videos coming out soon. I'm gonna be working my way around the garage clockwise. So we're gonna head around, you'll see everything, and we'll end in the middle of the shop to see where my table saw and very temporary outfeed table are. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. All right, so we're gonna start off in the front of the garage by the doors. Between them is one of my first woodworking projects that kind of gave me an idea that I enjoyed doing it. It's a shelf that I cannot pull out of there. It is just hard mounted to the wall. It was before I knew what a French cleat was or heard of anything like that, but I wanted a place to store all my car detailing stuff, or a lot of it. Somewhere right inside the door that when I'm washing the cars, I can grab it real easy, go back out, use it, bring it back. The problem now is everything in here is just completely covered in dust. It's not working very well for me. Fortunately, I built it deep enough that I can build a door over the front of that and keep hopefully all the dust out. So coming in the near future, I'm gonna be putting a shelf on that, a door on that, hopefully make it a little bit more usable, keep everything clean, because it's hard to clean with dirty stuff. So next up from there, I think is probably my very first shop project. I built this miter saw cart out of some 12-inch deep pine shelving we had taken out of our living room we moved in. It was already painted. It's all pocket screw joinery. It's not very sturdy. It's got a little bit of a wiggle to it, but it's been perfectly fine. I took the Ryobi miter saw sawhorse that they sell, the stand, took the legs off. They're actually up underneath the cart, so if I ever need to use it as a mobile base again, I can take them back out and pop them on here. But I also got another set of these rails for my router table. So my router table can pop on here too if I take the miter saw off. Kind of versatile. When I first started doing a lot of farmhouse stuff, rustic furniture, I used my miter saw a ton. So it was the focus of my shop. I used it for just about everything. I wanted it to be front and center. So I made storage in there. There's room for my extra blades. It accumulated larger scraps that I could reuse in the future. All right, next up is my mobile cart. I started putting some of my bigger tools on as I accumulated them. For frame of reference, my miter saw station is right here. So it's directly behind the little aisle over from my miter saw station. I have my tabletop joiner here, another tool that honestly I'm probably gonna part with, because now that I have a good table saw, I get just as good at joints and I can do longer boards on my table saw than I can with this. So I feel like I've kind of outgrown this pretty quick. Talk about that more in the future, but this might not be staying too long. Also sharing some space on this cart is my scroll saw, because there's some stuff you can just only do with the scroll saw. You do it with a jigsaw too, but scroll saw is where it's at sometimes. The only problem I have with this, if I'm trying to move a larger item through here, is I hit the top of my joiner quite a bit. So it's not the best layout, but it's a good use of storage. This whole cart's on wheels too, so if I can move it around and kind of get it out of my way, that's been really handy too. It's moved all around the shop a couple times now. On the other end, we have my DeWalt 735, whatever it is, planer. A lot of guys have this planer. It's kind of the one to get for home shops, in my opinion. A lot of the slightly cheaper benchtop models I see that only have the 2 posts. This one gets a lot more stability with 4, so a guy I know that had a lot more experience than me kind of talked me into spending the extra money on the 735 with the 4 posts, and I'm glad I did. On top, as well as that, we have my shop vac underneath. It's my small shop vac. I use that for dust collection for the joiner. It also runs a line over to my sander when I'm doing a lot of sanding on my outfeed table. Handy to have that there. I have a power strip mounted underneath here that has everything plugged into one cord running to the wall. That's convenient. Highly recommend that, at least. And it's also storage for my rigid spindle slash belt sander, whatever you want to call that. That oscillating spindle sander is awesome. Talk about that in another video as well. But that's a recent purchase and I'm glad I got it. It's come in handy a couple times. Probably saved me quite a bit of time as well. Hopefully the window doesn't bleach it out too much, but next up is my spray can and finish storage. Early on, I was doing a lot of sprayed projects, smaller stuff like the red shelf I showed you, and this similar style, same paint color. So I made something like this that'll hold all the normal cans of spray. I also have got some walrus oil in there, polyurethane, mineral spirits, Danish oil, shellac, all kinds of stuff in there just stored in a kind of neat way. It's another little shop project that, looking back, I could have done a little bit differently. I might rebuild this in the future, but it's still serving its purpose, even though I'm starting to outgrow it now. Still working for now, though. And then beside that, at kind of a funny angle, is this set of steel shelves over here, which currently has just a ton of scrap wood on it. It's become wood storage. It's not a very good solution, but it's worked for now. All right, so behind the makeshift lumber cart I have going, I have I think it's a Gladiator tool storage system, mostly made for yard tools, but I have a lot of my handheld power tools hanging up there. I don't care what anyone says about Ryobi. When you're starting out, it's a lot of bang for your buck. You might burn through it quick. It might not have as many features, might vibrate a lot in your hand, but when you're starting and you just need a tool, I'm happy with most of the stuff I have. I've started to upgrade from there, but until stuff dies, it's hard to spend money and replace it. So that's where I'm at. Got a light, power joiner, circular saw, my belt sander, jigsaw, and my biscuit joiner all hanging on the wall over there. That's other stuff. This wall is probably pretty soon going to be lumber storage. I want actual, like, just about floor to ceiling racks to put lumber on. That's the plan coming up here in the near future. So those are all going to have somewhere else to live. And I think I'm going to make room in my outfeed table storage to get all those out of the way so they're not accumulating dust, and get them a little bit more organized. So that's the plan with that. Underneath this area is absolute chaos. Bring you down here. I have some pine cauls that I have jointed edges and tape on, boxes of scrap lumber over here. Continuing counterclockwise from there, I have my workbench right here. I don't do a lot of work on it because it's just in the back, and I'm sure, like a lot of workbenches, it just accumulates a mess all the time. I have a couple sleds back there right now. That's my 45-degree cross-cut sled, my small dado sled. I have the top for this sideboard cabinet I'm working on right now. It's taking up a lot of the workbench. And all my dowels somehow ended up there. But I got a couple battery chargers, my dado stacks laying back there right now, clipboard full of my next upcoming projects. And then slowly shifting around is my toolbox. Another piece that needs completely reorganized. It's a mess in there. It's kind of labeled, and I know where stuff is, but I can do better with a lot of the stuff. So I think this is gonna be dedicated to, like, vehicle maintenance and, like, home repair stuff. And I'm gonna have better storage for my actual woodworking equipment, because I keep accumulating more and more tools like most of us do. So that needs to, something needs to happen with that. And then this is my screw storage right now. A lot of my hardware is just up here on the shelf. Don't judge me for all the pocket screws. They have their purpose. TV I hardly ever watch, because usually I'm listening to podcasts while I'm working out here, but it's out here, so if I'm ever just kind of hanging out here and cleaning, sometimes I'll turn something on, usually YouTube. All right, from there I have my third and final of the 3 shelves. Doing a lot of stain projects when I was doing the farmhouse furniture. I accumulated a lot of different stains. A lot of people wanted different stuff, so I built a shelf to hold what I thought was gonna be enough. Luckily, I'm getting away from stain projects, so probably gonna turn into the monocoat shelf with all my Rubio stuff. If you saw, I had a ton of samples over here to try out, and once I get some I like, I'll probably have the ones I use a lot on the shelf, along with some other stuff. I use a lot of Danish oil as well. But so I have all that. Also, when I started using the 3M Extract sandpaper, I found that those boxes all fit on those shelves too, so they've kind of worked their way in there as well. But I need separate storage for all my sanding, because you get a lot of sanding stuff and might as well keep it all together. So that's kind of a silly solution right now. My router table's back there just collecting dust still, because I don't have another place for it, and frankly, I don't use it all that often. So most of the time, if I have to route something, put an edge on a tabletop or whatever, I'm grabbing my palm router because it's enough. It's easier, it's quicker. So I have a dedicated router in the table, but I almost never use it anymore. Moving past the hot water heater, I have this heavy duty shelf back here that has also accumulated just a ton of stuff. Chips for smoking, you know, wood smoking, a lot of hardware in those toolboxes there. Safety jacks for jacking up vehicles, paint. A lot of that stuff needs to go. Honestly, probably some of the paint's expired, so I gotta get rid of that stuff. I really need to go through it and just get it out of here. And again, it's just open shelves. It's not like a cabinet or anything. So there's just everything back there is just covered in dust. I do have dust collection, which was kind of skipped over. We'll get to that in a minute, but you're still gonna have sawdust no matter what you do, and everything's getting covered. So between that shelf and this shelf here, which again, more just household junk that's found its way out of the garage that really needs to be inside something if it's gonna live out here, and I think it probably will live out here because we don't have a better spot for it. But something has to be done with these shelves and make better use of the space. It's also where I keep all my sheet goods. This is my biggest sheet of 3/4 birch right now. A lot of scraps behind it, but it just gets leaned up here until I use it for right now. Granted, I usually buy it until I need it, but I need a better way of storing that as well. All right, and back here in the corner we started, I have my big bucket of scraps. A lot of that hardwood is completely useless, but I hate throwing hardwood away. We plan on getting a fire pit pretty soon, so I'll be able to actually use it for at least a small campfire for my family in the backyard. And back behind that, you can see a really cheap, crappy plastic white shelf. I have a bunch of like car maintenance stuff, car parts for like car I was talking about earlier at the bottom. That stuff needs to go too. A little bit of detailing stuff up top that needs to find a better home as well. Those microfiber claws are getting dirty sitting up there, so they need to be put away somewhere. And it's taken up the best side of the shop, to be honest. This wall is 2 feet deep back from the garage door, so there's plenty of storage up against this wall that just needs to be used better than it is right now. Now, right in the middle of the shop, I have my table saw and this very temporary outfeed table that I also use as an assembly table and just general workbench. I wanted to shoot this video on a day that I just finished a project so everyone could see this is what it looks like when you actually build something. I see a lot of shops that are just pristine and perfectly clean, and the only tool you see is the one getting used. Hopefully in the future my build videos will look like that, but this is authentic. I have pliers, drill, impact driver, clamps, everything laying out. 2 different sets of, I got Forstner bits, regular bits, glue, calipers, everything just laying out on the table right now. That's pretty much what it looks like when I'm done working. So Friday is usually a cleanup day. Kind of spend Friday afternoon just putting stuff where it needs to be, but after the end of a project, this is what it looks like. And then a table saw that I use for just about everything anymore. I upgraded in December to a Laguna Fusion F1. I had a little Craftsman bench top before that had the legs that came with it, a little contractor saw, and it was rough. Going to this was a huge jump for me. I considered going all the way to saw stop, but I'm going to talk about why I chose this over the saw stop in an upcoming video. I'm happy with the decision I made. This thing's awesome. There's some features that the F2 has that I wish I had, but overall I think this is right where I need to be for at least the next couple years. And then you can see over here is my dust collection. The only 2 things that my dust collection runs on is my planer, which if anyone that has that planer knows you don't turn your dust collection on, it pushes to it. So I finally, you know, I was using a shop vac for that before. It wasn't cutting it. That one actually gets the job done and collects just probably 98% of that dust and shaving. So that works out awesome. And then the other line runs to the table saw. So 2 biggest tools for the dust collection itself. So like I said before, sanders on the shop vac and a lot of the other stuff. I can hook the shop vac up to it as I'm using it. And then you can see I got my sawhorses set up back there with my current build. I'm working on a sideboard. Got to get some doors and drawers on that. All my stiles and rails are cut up there. I just need to kind of finish getting those rabbited out and assembled, get the panels cut. But that's my shop. Let me know what you think. What would you do different? Do you have any suggestions for where things should go, how I should lay things out? A lot of the tools and stuff I talked about, I'm going to link to them below. Feel free to check those out if you're interested. If you want my feedback on those, feel free to reach out in the comments. Let me know. I can tell you what I think, but I do plan on doing some tool reviews in the future. So if there's something you want to hear about more, let me know and I can kind of prioritize that one. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.